We are here studying Job. We're going to go through two chapters this week, 24 and 25. We're going to kind of come to an end of this bantering back and forth between Job and his buddies. And what we're looking for here is to see Job's experience, his strength, and his hope. We're looking for his experience in a way that we can touch and we can relate to it, right? Job is no different than you and I. Different time, different place. But at the end of the day, we all have the same traumas, the same tribulations, the same difficulties in life. And how we handle them, we can take from somebody else's experience. We look for his strength because who's to say tomorrow's going to be any easier? Life is hard. Let's not, whatever that's called. Be wishy-washy. There's some paint expression, but yeah, to be wishy-washy on that. And it's really interesting for me to tell you what to do, right? It's very interesting for you to tell me what to do. But if we watch each other do it, we can grow and we can live with that example, with that experience, right? And we know where Job's strength lays. And his strength lays in his relationship with God. So anytime that we can pull from somebody else's life where we see the pure strength of his relationship with God to get through anything. Because I don't believe anybody in this room has lost all their children this week, lost all of their health, lost all of their wealth, lost all of everything within a very finite period of time. We've all had difficulties. Many of us have lost children. Many of us have lost jobs. Many of us have lost wealth. But not to the devastation that Job has. But Job still remains faithful in his relationship with God. And there's something to be examined there. So we are looking for God's wisdom, his goodness, and his justice. And we're looking for it in a way that we haven't seen it before. Right? Is God good? Yes. All the time. Right? Is God wise? Yes. Absolutely. Is God just? Then why do we complain? Right? You ever think about that? Why do I sit back and say, poor is me? Why'd that happen to them? Why is this happening? That's not fair. That's not good, right? It's because at the end of the day, when it comes time for us to actually believe in God's wisdom, his goodness, and his justice, sometimes our belief will fall short of our actual behavior. So we take this time in a safe place with air conditioning and Diet Coke to look at this, to take it to a level that we've never thought of before. Does that make sense? Now that we're just over halfway through, has anybody seen God's wisdom, his justice, or his goodness in a way they've never seen it before? Okay, cool. I got one. Yes, I did my job. How about two? Two? All right, there you go. Okay, so last time, thank you very much for Jerry for pitching in. I don't see him today, but I appreciate that. And hopefully we were looking at our relationship with God, right? What did you guys take away from last week? Give me one thing you guys took away from last week. Okay, good. Nice. All right, so Jerry and I are going to work on closing up the lesson then a little bit, all right? This week, I want to focus on God's patience with us. Now, I'm going to ruin the story for you. Job never gets rebuked by God. Okay? So throughout this entire story, we can go forward knowing that what we see Job doing in the moment may not be the best, may not be the perfect Christian way of doing things, but we do know that it's not displeasing to God. Can we all agree with that? Because if it was, Job would be rebuked, right? Okay, so as we go through today, I want to focus on the fact that God doesn't care about the details of our behaviors. Wait a minute, Aaron, what are you talking about? Yes, you can go say a bad word and God will still love you. Yes, you can do something wrong with the books at work and God will still love you. Yes, you can do something wrong with your relationships and God will still love you. This does not mean we go do that, right? But what it does mean is that if God's not going to beat me up for padding my expense account, there must be something else going on. And what is going on? God is more interested in our whole relationship and our heart with him. King David is a man after God's own heart. You think David was a good boyfriend? Do you think David was a good boss? Anybody want to work for David, like on the front line? But what God really cared about was David's heart. All right? And that's what I kind of want us to leave with today. It does not give us the right, doesn't give us permission to go sin. But what it does give us is it gives us a little reprieve once we understand that we've sinned and we, thank you, starts with an R, repent, right? Because what God really cares about is our heart. What God really cares about is our true relationship with him. He doesn't want us living in this constant fear of his wrath. Does God have wrath? Yes. Absolutely, right? But we don't have to live in that fear because he loves us. He loves us. And what does that mean? He forgives us. What does that mean?
He cares.
He cares. What does that mean?
There's hope.
There's hope. All right, we just keep asking, what does that mean? What does that mean, right? Because it grows and it grows and it grows to this point that all that matters is that we get up and we say, help. And when we go to bed, we say, thank you, right? That's what God really cares about. Okay, so we are back to that wonderful spiritual discipline of journaling. I passed them out in the beginning. If anybody needs one, raise your hand and I will be glad to pass them out. Okay? And when I say I would love to pass them out, I love. Stephanie will be more than glad to pass them out. I don't think a whole lot of people need to know. But the reason why we journal, let me take a step back. The reason why I go through all these different spiritual disciplines, is there any one way to get into the Word? No. Is there any one right way to bind your life with God? No. Right? We do these different spiritual disciplines because not only are there different personalities, we have different cycles in life, right? There are times where Lectio will be very, very powerful. And there will be times where Lectio is like, this is the last thing in the world I want to do, right? There will be times that journaling, and there will be times that this kind of prayer, that kind of prayer, this kind of silence, or this kind of solitude, or this kind of fasting. The point is that we're constantly practicing different spiritual disciplines so that we become what? Let me go back to that. Deeper in relationship with God, right? So when we journal, the idea is that we let the Word, we let God speak to us, and we write it. And the reason why we write it, first of all, psychology-wise, there's a lot of connections with the mind and the heart in the writing, right? The other big thing for me that I have found is that in my journals, I can go back. And what happens when I go back? I reflect. I see change, right? I grow. I see how I've grown. I see not only how I've grown, but how I've grown, right? The process that it's taken. Because who here is ever going to stop growing? Why we're here, none of us, right? So that's what we're doing. The idea is to internalize the Word, our time, and our emotions with God. So we are in Job. Any other comments or anything before we get started here? All right, and let's take just a moment and clear our minds and clear our hearts. Let the worries of yesterday and tomorrow just sit to the side. They'll be there when we get done. Be here. Be here now. Thus, with God. This is Job 24 and 25. Why does the Almighty not set times for judgment? Why must those who know him look in vain for such days? There are those who move boundary stones. They pasture flocks they have stolen. They drive away the orphan's donkey and take away the widow's ox and pledge. They thrust the needy from the path and force all the poor from the land into hiding. Like wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go out to their labor of foraging food. The wasteland provides food for their children. They gather fodder in the fields and glean the vineyards for the wicked. Lacking clothes, they spend the night naked, and they have nothing to cover themselves in the cold. They are drenched by mountain rains and huge rocks of lack of shelter. The fatherless child is snatched from the breast. The infant of the poor is seized from death. Lacking clothes, they go about naked. They carry the sheaves, and they go hungry. They crush olives among the terraces and thread the winepress. Yet they suffer thirst. The groans of the dying rise from the city, and the souls of the wounded cry out for help. But God charges no one with wrongdoing. There are those who rebel against the light, who do not know its ways or stay on its paths. When the daylight is gone, the murderer rises up, kills the poor and needy, and the night steals forth like a thief. The eye of the adulterer watches for dusk. He thinks, no one will see me, and keeps his face concealed. In the dark, thieves break into the houses, but by day they shut themselves in. They want nothing to do with the light. For all of them, midnight is their morning, and make their friends the terror of the darkness. Yet they foam the surface of the water. Their portion of the land is cursed, so that no one goes into the vineyards. As heat and drought snatch away the melted snow, so the grave snatches away those who have sinned. The womb forgets them, and the worm feasts on them. The wicked are no longer remembered, but the broken like a tree. They prey on the barren and the childless woman, and to the widow they show no kindness. But God drags away the mighty by his power. They have become established, but they have no assurance in life. He may let them rest in a feeling of security, but his eyes are on their ways. For a little while they are exalted, and then they are gone, and they are brought low and gathered up like all the others. They are cut off like heads of grain. If this is not so, who can prove me false and reduce my words to nothing? Then Bildad the Shuhite replies, dominion and awe belonging to God. He establishes order in the heights of the heaven. Can his forces be numbered, or whom does his light not rise? How can the mortal be righteous before God? How can one born of woman be pure? If even the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes, how much less a mortal who is but a maggot, a human being who is only a worm? This is the word of God. Thanks be to God. I'll take a moment and just jot down some thoughts. What questions come to mind? Is there a phrase that stands out? I have another sheet of paper for the grocery list, so don't write that. Take another moment. Write anything down you want. Also, another neat little thing about journaling, it doesn't always have to be a complete thought, right? It can be a question or something that you look up later, right? All right, so welcome to the wonderful world of journaling. And if anybody wants to hang out with me, I do it for about 30 minutes a day. So if you think you had fun this morning. Opening thoughts, comments, what do you guys get? What's running through your head? Jim?
Having listened to you read 24, 25, how can man be right with God?
Okay. Let's let that hover over us for a while. Do you mind if I don't address that? It's just, everybody hear what Jim's question was?
The problems that Job questioned are the same problems we question today.
Absolutely. Okay. The same questions that Job brings up are the same questions that we have today. Go ahead.
Same what stood out to me was Job 24, verse 20. The womb forgets them, the worm finds them sweet, and it no longer remembers. So wickedness is broken like a tree. That stood out to me because that's showing the foreshadow of the fig tree parable. Also talks about Ezekiel with the axe, and that tree will be cut down. And when I get the womb forgets them, we go into like witch gods and all that, Rome, the Roman goddess. I talked about that last week, Acts 19. Goddess Diana is the childbearer. He talks about that in Acts 19, that the world, that makes them worship them, but she'll fail. So it was showing me like Revelation 10. No matter how many witch gods that think that they can protect that tree of that witch, Satan, the angel comes on land with that cloud, which is Exodus 12, Passover, and comes down and cut the tree.
So, first of all, wow, nice job. Second of all, when we read something, especially Old Testament, especially Old Testament, the readers, the people at the time, the people between the time and John, who had Revelation, right? They didn't know any of that, right? So as powerful as that is, let's take just a moment, right, and kind of pull that back a little bit. And what do you sense if we take it at its core? What do you think that wickedness is really about? What do you think that infant being pulled from the breast is about? You ever think about that? Go ahead, Jim.
Reflecting on that, what I did.
I'm sorry, everybody. Did you just hear that? Mr. Davis reflected. That is awesome. Okay, sorry. Yeah, it was nice being with you all. I'll see you later.
We missed you. You referred to David earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Who would want to be in David's shoes? Well, David left a lot on the table. And God was well aware of David. So David went on about his business. You could say not following God. And yet David is held up for us to know about and hear about and reflect on. Thank you.
Thank you. One more. Go ahead.
You were saying an infant being pulled from the breast. The Lord put on my heart Revelation 12. Then the dragon stood before the woman who was about to bear a child so that he might devour her child as soon as it was born. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who was to rule all the nations. With a rod iron, but her child was snatched away and taken to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God, so that there she can be nourished for 1,260 days.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Anybody else? All right. Wow, that is a ton of opening statement. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Verse 12, but we go through all that stuff and it says, but God charges no one with wrongdoing.
What do you do with that?
We don't know when the judgment will occur.
Okay.
But he is forgiving.
He is forgiving. We don't know when the judgment is going to occur. So how does this start? Why does the Almighty not set times for judgment?
So it says that God exists on time, not in time.
Okay. I'm going to get a little goofy on you. And you guys did this to yourself. I wasn't going to do this. I hadn't decided yet. But since we're going here. Revelation. Is that going to happen? Or is it happening? Right? Is judgment now? Is judgment in the future? It's always. Right? We have got this good Houston Presbyterians. We got to take this time and this day and these boxes that we put ourselves in, and we have to kind of remove ourselves from that when we get into Scripture, right? Because God is when? He was, He is, He always will be. There is no time with God, right? So, let's not get terribly upset about this judgment. Let's not get terribly worried about this judgment. We know it's coming. We know what the rules are. It's God's way or it's not, right? But let's live in the moment being judged and being found what? No. Oh, you guys were so close. We're found not guilty, right? Why? Because he sees Jesus. We're white as snow, right? So every moment of every day we live being judged, found not guilty. Until, I don't know if any of you are like this, but for me, I see that guy in the mirror. Then all of a sudden, everything changes. I'm not good enough. I'm not bright enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough hair. I don't blah, 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 right? And all I do, hang on just a second, is tear myself down. When I tear myself down, who else am I tearing down? And who else? You guys. You ever think about that? Now, what's happening here is, let me take a little step forward. Yeah, let me take a step forward real quick. Let me take a step forward. In 25, what happens with Bildad? Has anybody ever seen such a profound, deep statement in 8 lines? What is Bildad actually saying? God wins. I'm done. He can't argue with Job anymore. Anybody? Anybody else find that exciting? The arguments, the back and forth has now stopped with Bildad, right? Who haven't we heard of for the 3rd time? So far, right? We're not going to hear another one from him. We hear Eliphaz eloquent. We hear Eliphaz eloquently and a little upset. We hear Eliphaz not so elegant, but pretty firm, right? And his buddies follow. In Bildad, he's just like, all right, fine, we're done. I'm not going to even try to argue this anymore. Anybody see any significance in that? Okay. What?
Permanent, it can't be changed.
Okay, it can't be changed, but now let's throw some reality into this, right? I'm arguing with you back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Why did you quit?
Either be because you're tired of it, or you see that they're right, or you understand that there's no changing the other person.
I don't hear Bildad saying you're right, Job.
No, but you know that there's more to come.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Betty.
I was gonna say that maybe Bildad is kind of going, well, wait a minute, maybe what I'm saying may need to be evaluated, but I think you just answered saying no, that he wasn't backing down at all.
Okay. All right. Candy, you were going to say something?
I was gonna say, he just threw up his hands.
Yeah. Right? There's just, forget this. This is not going the way I thought it was going to go. Right? All right. Hold on to that thought. Hold on to Jim's thought. And let's go here for a second. Last week, we were longing for the day that we return to him. Now, in 24, we see this longing for when wickedness is gone. Does anybody here wish the bad would pay their bill? right? Anybody? Is that human nature? Okay, one more time. Is that human nature?
For us to want the wickedness to be gone?
Yeah.
Well, the Lord said the world hated me before it hated you.
Okay. And when did hate enter the when did hate enter the picture?
We can see clear now.
I need those anyways.
When Satan fell, so Satan entered into the world. That's when sin.
Okay, I'm prepping us for, so I'm trying to do a lot here, and you guys will, you don't know it, but you'll catch on in a couple weeks. What, no, it's because I haven't lit the match yet. I'm setting up the fireworks. The question was is that human nature? Is it human nature that we want the wicked to pay?
Yes.
Not if you're wicked. Okay, I like that one.
It's the worldly, the justice that we send in this world that we want wicked to pay, and we want things to be what we define as just.
I want to be very, very careful here. It is not human nature. It is sinful nature. Okay? And you'll see why I'm making a huge distinction. I'm about to get upset, I'm sorry. You're about to see why I'm going to make a huge distinction here in the next couple weeks. There is a difference between sinful nature and human nature. Why am I being so difficult right now? Because how were we made? We were made in God's image, okay? Does God want the wicked to pay?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. Right? That's not what he wants. What does he want? He wants humanity, all of his creation, and him to be together. But at the end of the day, there's this thing called sin, and that means what? That his creation, all of his creation, and all of him will not be together. So there is this consequence that some of his creation will not be with them. And as you're flipping the Bible, if anybody wants to go to Revelation, what happens 7 different times? His creation actually looks at him and says, no, thank you. He says, wait, what about now? Nope. Until the point that God then says, fine, you can have what you choose, right? Hold that thought for just a second. You guys got that? There's a difference between human nature and sinful nature. There's a difference between what God desires and wants and what is. Does that make sense? God created, and this is where it gets really, really tricky. Okay, so let's go here for a second, but let's not go very deep. God created knowing what was going to happen, correct? Yes. But God did not create so that could happen. Does that make sense? Okay.
But he gave us choice, which is where we made the problem.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Hang on. Go ahead. Are you ready? Okay, you get 2 Bible verses. Go.
We sing Psalms, which I said that in Ephesians, and David was after God's own heart. We were talking about justice. It says, plea for justice, the declaration of righteousness. And it says, vindicate me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity, and I have trusted in the Lord without wavering. Prove me, O Lord, and try me, test my heart and my mind, for your steadfast love is before my eye. I walk in faithfulness to you. I do not sit with the worthless, nor do I consort with hypocrites. I hate the company of evildoers, and I will not sit with the wicked. I wash my hands in innocence and go around your altar, O Lord. Sing aloud a song of thanksgiving and tell all your wondrous deeds. O Lord, I love the house in which you dwell, in the place where your glory abides. Do not sweep me away with sinners, or my life with the bloodthirsty. So those in whose hand are evil devices, and whose right hand are full of bribes. But as for me, I walk in my integrity. Redeem me and be gracious to me. My foot stands on level ground in the great congregation. I will bless the Lord.
Okay.
So the Lord does not like evil and wickedness.
Okay, that is not what I said.
Okay.
I didn't say that God likes it. What I said was, does God want the wicked to be gone? Okay, wait, hold, sorry, I'm getting all twisted up here. Deep breath. Boy, it's so good to be back with you guys. Okay, we long for the day that we are with him. Chapter 23. Thank you, Jared. Chapter 24. We long for the day that wickedness is gone. Does God long for the day that wickedness is gone?
Yes.
No. He doesn't long for it. We want wickedness to be gone. Why? Because we don't think it's fair. Because we don't think it's right. Why does God want wickedness gone? He doesn't. It's going to be gone. God doesn't long for wickedness to be gone. God knows exactly when his son is returning and when everything is made right. God doesn't long for that. His heart doesn't go pitter-patter. Does that make sense? Okay, hold on. Wow, I did not expect this. I apologize. Go, Jim, and then we're going to pull this in real quick.
Well, I have to go back to sinful versus human.
Okay.
Okay, sinful desires punishment. Human would desire recreation, new starting point.
I like that. Okay.
So it's like Noah. The flood came, you saw what happened, and now we're starting at this point going forward. You should have learned. You should appreciate me more. You should know what's expected.
Okay.
But I'm not drawing a timeline. These are desires of God for what his heaven's going to be like.
Okay. So far, yeah, I'll run with that. Yes. Good job, Jim. Real quick. Real quick.
The reason why he doesn't want wicked off the face of the earth, because it makes it very clear in John 8. You have children of the devil, and you have children of Jesus.
Right, and I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. What I'm saying is that there's a difference between human nature and sinful nature, right? We beat up on this human nature and we use it as a scapegoat. We can't use human nature as a scapegoat. What is the problem is our sinful nature. Our human nature is made in God's image, and that's what we need to chase. That's what we need to see in the example so many times throughout the Old Testament, so many times through all the disciples, so many times through our own lives, right? That's what I'm trying to set up here, right? That there's a difference between human and sinful nature.
Doesn't the Lord want to destroy Satan?
No, he doesn't want to. He has. God doesn't desire to destroy anything. God has. Right? And that's what I'm trying to get at here, right? We always put up these little figures and these little scorecards and these little games. There's no game to God, right? We're the ones that play the games. Actually, thank you. This is good. We're the ones that play the game, right? And that's exactly what Job has been fighting in one sense against his buddies, is his buddies want this game. Right? If you do this, then you get this, right? You're a good guy that treated his wife halfway decent and had a decent profession, so you make $1 million and drive a Cadillac. You are a better man than he is, but then why are you living in a tent? There must have been something you did. There must have been some god-awful secret that you have that makes you a bad human being. And I'm not worried about these two. I'm worried about who? Me. Because I know I deserve to live in the tent, not in the Cadillac. But all I want is the Cadillac. Why? Because of my sinful nature. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm starting to see some heads. Good. I started to get a little nervous. I was losing too many people. Okay. Did I see another hand somewhere?
Would you say that again more slowly?
Can you say that again?
I'm glad to see some heads nodding. I thought I was, oh, not that part? Okay, sorry. Okay. This whole time, chapter after chapter after chapter, has been this banter back and forth. And it has been Job sticking up for his God, his father, his provider, his Lord, right? Without understanding what's going on. Agreed?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have these boys that come and argue basically the same exact argument, which is what? You are a great guy, Job, but you must have done something really, really bad because look how bad you are. Okay? Let's take a step out of this for a second. Now, I'm going to look at Jim and say, wow, you got the nice house, you got the nice wife, you got the nice car. You must be a great guy. Then I look at Frank, who's living in a tent, and I go, oh, but I actually like Frank better. Frank's a nicer guy. His poor wife died of cancer. And she was like the next Mother Teresa. And his kids, before they got hit by that bus, they were just all polite. But Frank must have done something worse than Jim, because Jim's living better than Frank did. But I'm not doing it to help Frank. Why am I having this conversation? Because I'm worried about me.
Right.
I don't want to be in the tent. I want to be in a better house than Jim. Why? You guys all know this answer.
It's not fair.
Well, no. It's because I'm better than Jim. I'm smarter than he is. I'm better handsome, right? But is that not what we do, right? Jim's a great guy, but I'm better. Does that make sense? Okay. So, the problem then becomes the boys, these three arguments, and followed by Bildad, they have nothing else to say. Right? Why do they have nothing else to say? Because Job is still in the same position he's in, with everything that he's said about God being true. Hang on, Jim. Does that make sense, Nancy? No, I've still lost you, haven't I?
No, it is still true, but he doesn't understand what's happening, right?
Who's he?
The boys.
Or Bildad? Or Zophar? Or nobody understands this. Why?
Because we haven't been told. Because it doesn't
But
make
we
sense.
have been told. Because why?
It doesn't make sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
It's not fair.
Because it's not, okay, yes, we're back to week one. It's not fair, but why are we on this? We're on this because of this sinful nature. This human nature versus sinful nature. This godly way versus the manly way. Somebody said back there, the worldly way versus the godly way, right? We are constantly playing this game with everything that we do, right? And how do I know that? Because I do it. Ask her. I do it better than any of you guys. I love this game, right? I am so not good enough, right? I am so not special enough. He's so much better than I am. Ooh, look at that downfall. Well, now I'm better than he is. So now I can and it's this cycle that goes round and round and round and round and round, right? But then we sit here on a Sunday and we think everything's okay. Why? Is everything okay in this room? And I'm not talking about the sickness. I'm not talking about the finances. Is everything okay in this room? Statistically speaking, 50% of you are wondering where God is right now, sitting in this room. Now, maybe this is the 100% of the Presbyterians in Houston, Texas, that we're all perfect, right? But we all struggle with this pain, with this loss, right? Does that make sense? Loss or pain, you can take it for 2 seconds. Go.
I just like how you brought up the games because you got 5 kings right now that are playing games. And it talks about that in Joshua 10. And Joshua gives Yahweh salvation. And it talks about the 5 kings being defeated. The 5 kings that play Satan. And Joshua talks about that those 5 kings will be hung on trees and put to death.
Yes. So much metaphor there that we could run with. But let's just take just a second and step away from all of this. In fact, you know what? Because I sense we got some more Bible verses being quoted in just a second. Let's all close our Bibles. Because what I want to do is I want to sit through this today, right? The entire Bible was written knowing the entire Bible. And you know how to interpret the Bible, right? Everyone knows how to interpret the Bible? You use what? to interpret the Bible? You use the Bible, right? So it all interacts. But let's stay in this meat for just a minute, right? Because here's something, okay, yeah. Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6. What's the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our... Sound familiar? How about Job 1 through 24? Think about this for a minute, right? The Lord's Prayer is a recognition, a hope, and a desire. It is a difference between God's will as he commands, which always happens, and God's will as he desires, which will not always happen here. Why do we say the Lord's Prayer? Because it's not going to happen today. Why?
We don't know.
I do know. I most certainly do know. And you know, because I just, through sweat, lectured on it. Because of sinful nature. Right? Why do we have to pray the Lord's Prayer?
I think to remind us
Okay, to remind us what?
that God's will is right, and following God, and his timing, and he's got the control, and he knows what it is, and his way's best. We ought to jump on his ship.
What's with that daily bread stuff?
He's going to provide for us and care for us.
But we ask for it, right?
Yes,
Why do we have to ask for it?
because he wants us to come to him.
See, and this is the problem with only having an hour to do this class. Yes, but why do we have to ask for it? Go ahead, Jim.
And this takes us back to the walk in the sand, okay? We want what we want,
Oh,
all right?
okay.
And as humans, we can construct anything we want. Now, if we are walking in the sand, are we recognizing that God is there with us?
Okay, I like that. Hold that thought for just a second. In the back.
I'd say that the reason we ask, or whatever we're asking, all of these things, is so that we open and remember to have a relationship and a discussion with God. He knows what we need, he knows when we want it, or when we need it, and what his will is. I think we say it for us to get back in communication, relationship with him.
Okay, all awesome. Spot on. Perfect. One more, real quick.
He wants us to ask, so, it's showing like Jesus when he was on the boat with the disciples and all them, what I'm saying, we're getting all,
Okay.
out of shape, and Jesus said, you don't have faith, he was underneath the boat, sleeping, resting. He wants us to get on the right boat, that's how much he loves us. We can get on the love boat, or we can get on the boat, and Christianity has fallen this because it's religion, or we can get on the religion boat, which the religion boat will sink. The love boat will cruise us to everlasting life.
Give us our daily bread because he's going to give us whatever we need. But he needs us to ask why. Ooh, actually, bad, Pastor Aaron. He doesn't need us to. He tells us to ask why. So we go to the back and we are in relationship with God, right? That is the difference between human nature and sinful nature. Sinful nature makes you say something like, I need to. And I didn't do that on purpose. I slipped, right? Because out of everyday living as a Christian, I feel this need that I have to make God happy. I don't have to make God happy. I make God happy. If I don't make God happy, God doesn't see me. Think about that for just a minute. If I don't make God happy, God doesn't see me. Hold on, Aaron. Whoa. Go.
Because he cannot be in the presence of sin.
Okay. Now, what's the difference between sin and happy? Thank you, Pete, for the noise. Pete's struggling here, and he should. Am I always going to make God happy? No. Right? So, I need as long as I'm doing it because I need that relationship with God, as long as I am being this Christian because I feel this bond with God, with this, God, why are you doing this? Where are you, right? In all of this pain, in all of this frustration, I know you're there, I don't get it. Because remember, Job never did anything wrong, all right? Job whined. He cried. He complained. He even came awfully close to judging God, right? But was Job wrong?
Doing what a little child does, a little rebellious place.
Or even a grown man who's confused, right? So I need to be very careful on how I relate with God, how I'm in communication with God, how I'm in communion with God for that matter, right? That it's a need because I have this need. It's not a need like a codependent. I need to do this to make God happy. Does that make sense? Because that's what's been, hold on just a second, I'm on a roll. That's what's been going on in these entire 24 chapters, right? Bildad and Eliphaz and Zophar have been saying, you, need, didn't, should. And what has Job been saying? I just am. Why is this happening, right? Where are you, God? There's a difference. Go ahead, Marsh.
Speaking only about my life, not accusing anybody here of anything else.
Okay.
I find myself to be proud enough to think God likes me more because I'm better than whoever. And I tend to procrastinate and say, I've got I've got fewer and fewer years left, but I have a lot of time left and I can make my decision next year, next week, 10 years from now. Well, God will accept me whether I accept now or later. So I think I deal with those difficulties all the time. In terms of, okay, who am I better than today?
Right.
And, I'll make my decision tomorrow. Tomorrow comes.
I like that. Yeah. If you guys ever need to be better than somebody, be better than Pastor Aaron. It's a piece of cake. Yeah. Let me go here real quick. 21, they prey on the barren and the childless woman, and to the widow they show no kindness. We could spend days on the literary side of this, but this is very important because what happens is who's one of the worst people you could treat poorly in this particular time? It'd be the widow. All right? Second only to the widow would be the childless, the orphans, right? So what's happening here is they are comparing doing the absolute worst thing you could do as a human in humanity to another human being, right? So, believe it or not, we are examining God's justice. Who said that? That was Job. So what does this show you about God's justice? Job is saying, after all of this, even the worst of the worst humans that do this. Go ahead, Kenny.
His mercy is greater than his justice. And I'm really glad I get his mercy and not his judgment.
Okay. Can we just have like a Job weekend where I can tie some of this stuff together? All right, mercy and justice. Go ahead, Jim.
To me, what Kenny just said really makes it even more difficult for me because we have to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Mercy
The beginning of what?
of our lesson today, where we had Satan and humanity. Those two qualities, if you will, forgiveness or sinfulness, the three guys, three wise men or whatever, don't recognize and would not accept the fact that they are sinless. They are sinless in God's eyes according to them, or they wouldn't be there. And they keep trying to hold that against Job.
Okay, I see where you're going. Yeah. And what they're doing, if I hear you correctly, is that they're bringing in these worldly standards, that these worldly dimensions, like we were talking earlier, this time, these boundaries, and we're putting it on it, and we're saying this is the way God is. You bring in some good stuff.
Just like you don't have a clear line for humans. Don't cross that.
Okay,
For all.
but wait, we do. Because when you said, let's go back to the beginning, and I said the beginning of what do you guys think I was hoping Jim would take us to?
The garden,
The garden. Why was I hoping Jim would take us to the garden?
So that's where sin started.
that's where.
We were so close.
Where God addressed the sin.
That's where there was no line. There was no sin. There was no, you guys ready for this? There was no forgiveness. Why? There was no need for it. Okay? Now wait a minute. Let's go back to the beginning. And Aaron said, all right, I'm going to do a little Aaron here. And there's this time, and there's this when's judgment, and is it now, is it where? Guys, what if we're being told, we're being taught how to live in the garden right now? Okay?
Get rid of the fact that we're born into sin.
There's a problem. There's always a problem, and it's usually from the accounting department, so thank you, right? But what happens, you overcome these problems if it's just for a moment, right? Who here hurt this last week? Come on, everybody's hands need to go up, right? It's not perfect, but we can have these glimpses, we can have these moments, right, of pure intimacy, pure commune, pure time, space with God that makes everything okay. Why are you guys here? Please don't tell me because it's Sunday at 11 o'clock. Tell me it's because you want to grow in your relationship with God, right? And I really, don't take this wrong, I don't care where you go. Go to the Baptist church, go Wednesday, go Friday, I don't care. Grow in your relationship with God so that you can live in this peace, wait for it, that Job is living in. Job is living in peace right now. Hold on to that thought. How can I say that with 2 minutes to go? He can say that with 2 minutes to go because Job has got what? Hope. Who here has ever lost hope? Right? What's worse than no hope? Right? So Job, right, has been examining God's witness or God's justice. He sees what happens. He sees that in the light, that's what everybody sees, right? Where's God?
In the light.
In the light. And in the darkness, like the adulterer, right? It's hidden, right? Where is God?
In the light.
He's there.
And?
He's in the dark.
Remember, there's no boundaries with God. God is everywhere, right? So even in our sin, God is there with us, right? I'm so glad I have his mercy and not his justice. Thank God for God's mercy, absolutely. But more importantly, thank God for God's grace. Because I'm going to feel his justice. And it is because of his grace that I don't need his mercy. When do I need his mercy? I need his mercy when I'm Bildad. Have I ever needed his mercy? Absolutely. Am I going to need it? Absolutely. But I need it when I do what? When I doubt him.
When you're tempted.
And I love chapter 25 because what happens when I doubt God? I have nothing else to say. I just quit. Right? Forget it. Right? Anybody ever been there? Right? So, why do we care what happens? Why do we care what happens with any of this?
We have a pleasure to please God.
We have a what?
I think we have it gives us pleasure that we are pleasing God, that we are acting
And why?
in his love.
We're in relationship with him, right? When do we feel pleased that we're pleasing God? Anybody ever feel that when they're sinning?
No.
No. For all you married men in the room, or men that have had more than 2 weeks of relationship with a woman, when are you most happy being in that relationship? When she's happy. What happens when she's not happy? Right? So yes, you're spot on, right? We love to please God. But what do we do when God's mad at us? Do we still love to please him? Or do we sulk? Or what's worse, we feel like we have to go buy some flowers. Right? And are flowers really going to make God happy? No, right? The apology's good, right? I'm not saying that the apology doesn't need to be made. But what really needs to happen?
You need to repent for what you've done.
And what does it mean to repent? It does not mean I'm sorry. What does it mean? To change your behavior, right? Why did Bildad quit? Bildad quit, I believe, because he realizes there's no more argument.
Can't change it.
And he wasn't gonna change his behavior.
Okay. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yep, you're absolutely right. Okay, so 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks and we'll bring that one back. God's sovereignty, right? This whole thing, these whole 24 chapters has been about proving one thing, and that's God's sovereignty. His sovereignty over what? Everything. Right? Your livestock, your family, your emotions, your physical pain, your buddies, right? How your buddies come to you, what your buddies think, what your buddies say, the community, the way they push you out of the city, the way they pull you into the city, the way they count on you when you can offer them something, the way they push you away when you can't offer them anything. But at the end of it, what really matters? That's right, our relationship with God. The only thing that matters, right, is where God stands in all of this for you. Where does God stand in all of this for Job? Job doesn't know. I'll give you a little hint. Job doesn't know. But what he does know is it's at the top. God is in control. God's sovereignty is at the top of I can't even think of that word. Sorry. No, that was a good one. But God's sovereignty runs over everything, right? Bildad and all those arguments that Zophar and Eliphaz made were all about God not having pure sovereignty over all of it. That they've got to have some sort of control. They've got to have some sort of play. There has to be some sort of game. There has to be some sort of score, right? And is that not what we do? But at the end of it, so dramatically put Bildad, fine, whatever, right? I don't even know what to say anymore, right? So, why are we looking at this? We're looking at this because to me, this is the climax. Well, okay, that's not true. This is a really good part of the story, right? And this is the part of the story where humanity does what? Stops fighting. What am I begging you guys to do? What am I begging myself to do? Stop fighting God. It doesn't matter how bad we think it is, which means it doesn't matter how good we think it is. It can be so much better and it can be so much worse. Does that make sense? So, why should I care? Because this is how we have beautiful, beautiful moments of being with God on a regular Wednesday. This is how we glimpse into the garden today, not tomorrow. That's all I got. What do you think? Yes? Too much? Did I give too much? No, I don't know. Are you guys leaving with something today? Because I threw a lot out, and in hindsight, maybe I should have taken an hour and a half. But is everybody good? Does everybody see what happened today? It's not human nature, it's sinful nature. God is in control, and at the end of the day, humanity can never explain any of this. I should have said that an hour ago. Oh well. All right, prayer requests. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time and this place. I thank you for your word. I thank you for your word so much. Let it guide us this week, and let these thoughts and these ideas permeate our mind and our hearts. And let us go out there looking for you, looking for people to serve, and looking for ways to be an example of you. We love you. We love you so much. And we thank you, and we will talk again soon. In your Son's holy name. And all God's children say, amen. Have a great week, everybody.